We are glad to have our keynote speaker and a very senior bureaucrat. If I mention one point, a passionate singer, and he's on the top of the bureaucracy in the state of Kerala. And please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, and he's also the chairman for the Smart City Thiruvananthapuram Limited, Dr. Vishwas Mehta, a senior bureaucrat of 1986 batch. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Vishwas Mehta, Dr. Vishwas. We would like to have your initial advice. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, and a very warm welcome to all the dignitaries, especially from the Australian High Commission, from Israeli High Commission, and from the Kingdom of Netherlands. We have from the ministry also people joining in. We have a whole lot of stakeholders in this. As we all know, 70% of India lives in villages, and villages is about 600,000 villages, 6 lakh villages, 70% of the population. If you look at the last 50, 60 years, just like the trend in all other parts of the world, there is a rapid urbanization. It cannot be stopped. It is a natural phenomenon. People seeking jobs and better opportunities in cities and towns, they keep coming to the cities for improving their livelihoods, in search of employment, in search of better amenities. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. As the growth happens, the migration from rural areas to urban area also happens. And this is where the bulk of our infrastructure facilities get concentrated on. The better roads, the hospitals, the educational institutions, the airports, the transport hubs, the railway stations, and all linked facilities are concentrated in about 5,000 towns and cities. But what happens eventually is that none of these towns and cities were designed for such a phenomenal growth. They were not designed to handle the kind of growth which is actually happening in all these cities, particularly in India, where the density of population is so large and where there are such large disparities among the rural and urban scenarios. Now, throughout the history of our country, we have been an agrarian economy. There's 600,000 villages and 70% of population in the countryside were actually producing food for us. It was agriculture based. But now, with education going up, people want to do white collar jobs. People want to go for things which doesn't require hard labor or physical labor as we call it. And obviously the returns are higher than the manual labor which happens in the villages. So while the agriculture sector gets declined and the remuneration from it gets declined, the pressure on urban areas keeps building on. It's a natural phenomenon. It has happened all over the world. We cannot stop it. But what is important is that the urban infrastructure created in these cities should not collapse. It should also look at from the point of view of what happens if the cities expand into peripheries, what happens to the infrastructure which is supporting this population in terms of water supply, in terms of electricity, in terms of transportation, in terms of roads, in terms of hospitals. It should not burst on its seams. It should not happen that these cities, while handling large migration into this and creating opportunities and infrastructure, should not choke these cities. It should not happen that these cities become unlivable, as has happened in many parts of the world. And that is how the smart cities concept was created. The idea was to have sustainable development. Idea is to look into the integrated aspects of adequate water supply, electrical supply, solid waste management, urban mobility and public transport, affordable housing, especially for the poor, robust IT connectivity and digitalization, good governance, especially e-governance and citizen participation. We should have environmental sustainability also. And of course, last and not the least, the security and safety of the citizens, particularly the women and children. Health and education I have already highlighted. So I think with the help of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, this whole concept of developing a sustainable models by calling them smart cities. We have only 2 in Kerala, Trivandrum and Kochi. A lot of groundwork was done for this. The local bodies, the urban local bodies are very, very actively involved into this. There is a very active participation of them. And I am very glad that Trivandrum Smart City particularly has tendered all the work. 100% works have been tendered. We had about 6 months of lull because of the local body elections. The new elected bodies have come all over Kerala. And as pointed out by the CEO, Mr. Balakiran, we also have the unique distinction of getting the youngest mayor in the country, which attracted national media attention. He is, I believe, still studying in the university, but at the same time, she's heading the city. So that shows the faith of the democratic institutions in handing over power and decision making of how our towns and cities should look forward in future, how we should live in these cities. And this younger generation knows it better because many of us are new to digitization. We are new to the computers. When we were studying, there were no laptops, there was no internet, there were no mobile phones. So, and the present generation has been born with all those things. So how do we use this technology to ensure that the cities do not choke themselves, they don't get polluted, they have sustainable environment, they have sustainable infrastructure, the water is available to everybody, power line is there, there's adequate housing for everybody. The whole lot of people who sustain on these cities in the periphery, we cannot forget them. They should have also affordable housing. And the support services which a city sustains from a lot of people around urban living around urban infrastructure should be integrated and dovetailed with the help of technology. That is what perhaps this smart city is all about. Kerala, as we know, is far ahead in terms of education and health infrastructure. I'm glad that the projects which have been designed and have started functioning, have started working on, have looked into all those aspects where we really look at what we have done. We look at the urban planning, we look at our infrastructure, try to renew them, try to make them more sustainable, look in terms of what should happen in next 10 years, 5 years, 50 years, and how technology can be used to make the lives of our people much better. I'm really glad that APAC News Network has taken this initiative in organizing this conclave and brought in a lot of people, especially from the international community and local bodies. And I hope the conclave achieves the desired objectives and gives us some food for thought and for course correction if required. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I look forward to excellent deliberations in this conclave. Thank you very much. Sudhir, thank you very much, Bala, and thank you very much to all the dignitaries who are present in this conclave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that amazing address and taking us through the various nitty-gritties of Trivandrum and the overall Kerala.